So, hello, everybody. I am Douglas Bell, and you are on Ringing a Bell podcast, where we are focused on untold stories at the intersection of art, social justice, and the human spirit. Today, my guest has a passion for storytelling as well. My guest today was a stage manager at once. She has also written a 12-episode entertainment series that aired on Latin TV here recently called Royalty. She was also the media director for the Connie Norman Transgender Empowerment Center, and she is also the owner of her own production company. My guest today is an example of someone who is finding innovative ways to tell diverse stories. And I have her on today because through her art, she is looking to make changes just as well as I am. So I am so delighted to have today our guest, Gris Paloma. Hello, Gris.
Thank you so much, Douglas. That was such a beautiful introduction. I am so happy to be here.
Oh,
Hi.
you're welcome. You're welcome. So tell me, where are you at right now?
I am in Barcelona, Spain right now.
Okay. So
Living
what's
in the
so what's
neighborhood
that like?
downtown.
Is that pretty nice? What's the weather like?
It's beautiful. Today is sunny and warm. It's a coastal city, so I'm being reminded a lot of my home back in Miami, my time living in LA. It's really nice to be by the ocean. But I will say that it's a bit of a learning curve. But I'm enjoying the journey.
So real quick, what's the learning curve?
To speak like a Spaniard and not like a Puerto Rican. That's my personal learning curve.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. I never looked at it in that way. Yeah, I guess between accents and I guess even between just actual words, there's just difference.
Yeah, there's a bit of a difference, but I figured, we're all in this together.
That's
I'm
true.
here to learn. If they if you can have enough patience to talk with me, I have more than enough patience to
Okay.
share. So it's been fun, honestly, making friends and um yeah, seeing what life is like out here has been really rewarding, I will say.
So, I was looking at your resume and I was really, really impressed with all the things you've done. Um,
Oh, thank you.
yeah.
I
Well, I was going to say you were a stage manager for the Democratic Convention or for one of the what do you call it?
Yeah, the Democratic debate.
Yeah, for the debate. So tell me, how did that come about? How did you get that job?
Well, first, before we move into sh sharing my flowers, I need to say I love this collar. I love this collar. Your shirt has a really cute, cool design. I've never seen a collar like that. And yeah, I appreciate that I came today and their style on the Zoom.
I
Uh,
what you made my day with that. Yes, yes, there is style on the Zoom. Thank you so much for saying that. You made my little day.
of course. But okay, to answer your question, I worked as an intern for NBC Universal in Miami at NBC 6. If anyone listening is from South Florida, I would think they know NBC 6 or at least Telemundo 51, 51. I worked at the station that produces both of those channels as an intern. And this was back when I was in university. I worked there for just the internship. It was just a summer gig, and it eventually turned into my first job. So I always sing the praises of internships because that's really what got my foot in the door in regards to TV and things. But that summer session is when the Democratic and the presidential race started So the first debate between all of the Democratic primaries took place in Miami. And we went down there, recorded. I got to record in the convention center that it was happening, as well as outside where all the reporters were doing their coverage.
Okay.
Um, and that was insane. I couldn't really process that in the moment, but looking back, I'm super grateful for reporters like Jamie Garola comes to mind, who took me and was like, no, you need to see what it's like being a journalist on foot. And we were doing social media content at the time, but it was all feeding into the live feed
Uh-huh.
that was playing on, cable TV, I believe.
Okay. Okay. Well, you're right. I totally agree with you. There's a lot of value in internships that I think maybe in the beginning you kind of say, well, how is this helping me? But I agree with you that there are unexpected things you get from internships that you just never know what happens next. So when you get them, you should definitely go after them. So that's great that that's how that came about. Yeah, that should have been a really memorable experience for you.
Thank you. Yes, I will always stay grateful, and I remember that very fondly. My time working at NBC 6.
So from there, is that when you started writing royalty? Is that kind of what came next for you?
So yes and no, that is what came next for me in terms of my next writing or my next TV gig.
Mhm.
But I did end up graduating, got my bachelor's
Okay.
at FSU, and moved. I moved across the country from Miami to Los Angeles. I did live in Colorado in the meantime. That was pivotal, but that was very short in
Okay.
comparison. And in LA, after connecting with some entertainment professionals and some people in the nonprofit
Mhm.
particular world, they offered me the job of working at LATV, Latino Alternative TV, to write on royalty.
Okay. Okay. So now when you went to LA, did you have any contacts in LA, or did you just really just take a chance and said, I'm going forward?
Um, so I took a bit of a chance, but I did have one contact that saved my life. Drew
Okay.
Step. He is a trans man, non-binary pastor at Hope Hollywood in West Hollywood, California. He is a Lutheran reverend and was connected to me by my tia, Nicole Garcia. She's the faith director now with the LGBTQ task force. And that time I mentioned when I was living in Colorado, I moved out of my home state, Florida, to Colorado, and there worked with Nicole, where I was making her TikTok. She is also a woman of faith. She was a clergy member, a pastor at the time, and we were making gender affirming and queer affirming TikTok content from the
Mhm.
perspective of a faith leader. And when I told her, I love you and I want to continue doing this forever, but A, I don't ever want to see a winter like Colorado has their winters. And
Okay.
B, I want to move to California. I want to move to West Hollywood, I said at the time. And she was like, my girl, I want to tell you to stay, but I'm not going to. So here's my colleague, Drew, and
Okay.
you go be his TikTok.
Okay.
Sorry.
And see, and I think this story is important because there are probably so many people and trans people specifically who need to hear these types of stories where um, things can work out and things do work out, and we shouldn't be scared to take risk. And I think there's probably a number of people within the trans community who are, scared to maybe take a risk. And I think you, as an example of what's possible, is what people need to see, and I think what other trans people need to see. So really, thank you for sharing that. So,
Well, thank
so
you.
yeah.
I love that you mentioned that, can I say? And I appreciate you creating space to talk about loving trans people loving themselves, the community in general, or allies, because like you mentioned, taking a leap of faith, the decision to move to Colorado, while I would love to say it was what was an inspired decision, it was out of necessity. I came out to my family in Miami and was rejected entirely. I don't need to dive too far into the details. Of course, I'm open to share, but to be brief, rejected entirely, knew that it wasn't safe for me to stay there any longer. And because of a friend from high school and later college, got invited to stay with her, to find my footing, to take a chance, like you said, and really invest in myself. So if a trans person is listening, I just want to say, like, it's definitely worth it. There are people out there that support you and that you can be yourself around.
Correct. Correct. Yeah,
So,
no, thank you.
yeah.
Yes, no, totally agree with you. It's just probably not said enough about that reality. We probably hear more about the trauma side of it instead
Right.
of the good. So yeah, so tell me about royalty.
So Royalty is a entertainment and news talk show. It features Queen Victoria Ortega as the host. She is the one that inspired the title Royalty. It's sort of like royal trans or royal
Oh,
tea, like sipping, oh my
okay,
gosh, this tea is piping hot, talking about, gossip or whatever you want to classify as tea,
okay,
the umbrella of tea. But
okay,
um it is led by her. She's the host, and every week a guest comes and they review topics. So news that's relevant to non-binary or trans people regarding actresses or even politicians, and to entertainment stories, things that are affecting Latinos, people of color, particularly in the entertainment industry.
mhm,
But we covered stories that had to do with legal protections, rights to marriage, rights to parent, things that happen not only in the States, but really globally. So we've had gorgeous and really talented and intelligent guests like Angelica Ross, Gia Gunn, Aris Wanzer, people that have sat with Queen Victoria, and
mhm.
talked about the hot topics, their
Okay,
takes, their opinions, and yeah, it's really
okay.
a opinion talk show. But Queen Victoria offered me the position when the network offered her the show and said, "Hey, I know you're working here at the Connie Norman Trans Empowerment Center. You love to write, you've written before, and this show is, offering us the opportunity to tell our stories as trans and non-binary people. Would you like to write on the show?" So
Right.
of course, I saw that as a god sent, a goddess sent, however you identify your divinity. But I was grateful to my community, to the universe, everything, and thought, oh my God, this is my opportunity to write about something not only that I'm familiar with, but that I have love and passion for.
Mhm.
So that's sort of how Royalty came about.
So work it as far as Latin alternative TV, is that you can find it on the internet, or you find it on, is that local just to LA? So yeah, because I don't know
Yeah.
anything about Latin TV.
It is 100% available on the internet. It's totally free. latv.com. You can stream the episodes virtually. Also, the app is how I watch most of their content. LATV app. It's a purple app. and their Instagram and TikTok too posts a lot of the clips from the shows.
Okay.
So LATV on Instagram, I believe LATV Queer is the one that posts most of our royalty content. There's a few
Mhm.
factions, LATV Latina, Black Trinidad, talking about, Latinas, women, and Black Afro Latinos. There's like a few extensions on social media of LATV,
Okay.
but if you want to watch all their content, you could stream it at latv.com.
So did you see this as an opportunity to craft, I guess, the trans, the queer, the non-binary experiences in the way that you felt like you're not seeing it on other formats? Was this an opportunity for that?
Most definitely. I made sure to put in conversations about athletes and families
Okay.
because those are two topics that I've seen in the news, but haven't particularly seen in scripted content. I know in Pose there is the storyline of Angel and her partner. I believe they become parents too. So that warms my heart to see that. No, sorry, spoilers if anybody hasn't watched it. But yeah, in a larger context, like a global context,
Uh-huh.
a lot of countries have not allowed trans people to be parents. And those that is an example of a news story that I wanted to put in for in addition, like the athlete conversation, a lot of people are debating on, trans people's
Right.
eligibility in sports. And while there is a varied amount of responses or takes on it, I'm sure even if you ask in the community, you're going to get different responses. I put in those stories and we had athletes on the show who interviewed Cece Telfer, comes to mind, and spoke about what it's like to compete in these tournaments. She's a runner, compete in these races,
Mhm.
and also deal with your gender being critiqued, your body, your rights, all these things. Um,
Mhm.
so I definitely took it as an opportunity to put in stories that I don't particularly see um, being covered. And I hope that those that watch it could maybe get a refreshed perspective.
Right, right. Well, and it sounds like even a perspective you never considered, because just hearing you say about trans people not having the ability to adopt, I didn't realize that they were turning trans people away from adoption. That never even occurred to me. Um,
Well, in Japan recently, the story we covered was that there was actually one step further, a mutilation policy where if a person were to transition
mhm.
and their partner, say, is also trans, they come together and want to have children, may it be the organic, old-fashioned way, even then they wouldn't be allowed to do that because in order to be married, they
Mhm.
would have to agree to mutilate, to essentially receive SRS, which is a acronym for sexual reassignment surgery.
Right.
Mm, Most a lot of trans people do want this, and it is a right, and everyone deserves to get the coverage they want. But a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people
Mhm.
don't want bottom surgery.
Right.
And um, the news we reported on was that in one circuit court that was turned down, and they actually took a step towards, progress, allowing this one family that was going through the judicial system to have children, to not be mutilated, so that they could get their marriage certificate and continue on.
Okay.
So yes, well, that was crazy news to me because here I am, put this perspective from within the States, yes, our marriage equality just passed in 2015. While I was a young adult, I didn't even know that other parts of the world were taking it that much further,
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Okay, and that's why I say it's just something I never even never realized even going on. So you are Puerto Rican?
Yes, I'm Puerto Rican by descent. My mom is from Ponce, Puerto Rico. My abuela, all the family from that side of the family, and she came over, I believe, when she was 15,
Mhm.
and then came me.
Okay.
So
Well,
I grew up entirely in the continental US, like in Miami. But I'm very proud of my background. And yeah, I like to mention being Boricua because I think that there's a distinct difference between Puerto Rican and American in
right.
general.
Well, and I brought that up as to ask the question about the intersectionality of immigrant status and LGBTQ plus individuals. Is there something that singles an individual out because they are um, of a different immigrant status versus, I guess, native born is
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this specific intersection because it is so particular. I have the privilege of not having the experience of I'm an undocumented immigrant
Mhm.
because Puerto Rico is a
Right,
territory, or in
correct.
other words, or a colony of the US. A lot of my friends, a lot of my colleagues, and people that I worked with throughout these projects that we're mentioning, from Miami at
Mhm.
NBC all the way to LATV, have had other luck. And they've shared with me that the experience of going through the immigration process as a trans and non-binary person
Mhm.
introduces them to even more obstacles. Because if we're talking really real about this, ICE and the detention centers that a lot of people at the border, particularly the southern border of the US, but there are centers in South Florida as well as other parts of the country, um, treat the people in these facilities with horrible, horrible
Mhm.
levels of attention. It could be compared to a prison in modern, like, US, your typical prison.
Mhm.
But if you take it to not having documents, they're putting trans people in the cells or in the containments of the sex often assigned at birth. So,
Right,
for instance, putting trans women in men's detention centers, which then, like I mentioned, it exposes them to a lot more obstacles, a lot more danger,
right,
people
right.
not respecting them. Like it, it's definitely an intersection that comes with a lot of adversity, but I think at the same time, a lot of resilience. The people that I have met and that have gone through experiences like this have nothing but a sense of endurance, sense of perseverance,
Right.
and an outlook that is honestly inspiring because it's thinking, you tell me I'm assigned as a male and I tell you I'm a woman. You tell me that I'm not an American and I tell you that I am. Like, these things that are processes, they're not finite. They
Mhm.
have this I would say, perspective that goes beyond just another person's definition of you. So I find that really liberating, and I learn a lot from my immigrant, from my trans colleagues and friends, because, like you said, there is a lot of intersectionality to learn from.
Correct, correct. Interesting. So I'm gonna have some fun here. So you are in Barcelona, you've been traveled from Florida to California. So how has dating been?
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting to talk about my love life, but I'm happy to share. Um, dating throughout from Florida to LA to Barcelona has been a journey
Okay.
to say that. Um, but I will say that I have found people that are respectful
Okay.
of my gender identity,
And
my
that's what I
pronoun.
wanted to hear. Yeah.
Um, I've had relationships with people that are not afraid to go out in public, that actually pursue me
Mm,
amongst their friends, family, things like that. And that feels really good, I
right.
will say, compared to how things felt at the beginning of my transition, when the only attention I was really receiving or that I felt like I could receive was from discreet men or DL men that have no desire to be with a trans person or a queer person out in public.
Mm,
So I will say, in the time of all of these places that I lived in, I'm noticing a shift of men that I'm attracted to masculine people. So I say men, but trans men too, like that are proud to be with a trans woman or a non-binary person, what have you, and are also comfortable in their own masculinity too, which I feel like is important. Um, because, you know, it is not a bad thing to be masculine or to have masculine tendencies. And it's about, I think, showing up as the best version of you, really,
right.
not necessarily how feminine or masculine you define yourself as, but just, showing up as fully yourself so that you can be present for a partner, girlfriend, what have you.
Right, right, exactly. And I think to your point, um, we do so much harm when we're not able to be authentic with one another.
Mhm.
And it's interesting because I had a reviewer contact me once and made the statement that from one of my novels that she didn't believe that a cis man could be attracted to a trans woman. And I just really was, I guess, blown by that because that really didn't make any sense to me. But I guess in reading the novels, maybe she heard something that she never considered that she had to like discuss with me. Like she's more like kind of like really. So I guess I asked that question just so people can see that definitely men
Yeah,
are approaching you, and I don't know why that seems so far-fetched to
mm,
people, and particularly cis people.
right. Well, I'm thinking about that too. I feel like there is definitely like not a comparable amount of, trans amorous storylines. In TV, most everything on daytime at least is cisgender, straight
Right.
couples. And I know plenty of trans people that identify as straight. So that is a mind trip in and of itself. But
Right.
uh, um, I will say there's a lack of representation. So I could totally, I guess, get where your reviewer is coming from.
Mhm.
But like to your point, a cisgender straight man is attracted to women. That's sort of the definition of the term straight man, right?
Right.
Um, so why would a trans woman be who is, in this umbrella of woman or under this label of woman, be considered anything
Right.
different than, to me, it makes perfect sense, but who knows? Maybe
Right.
she had to take a moment, do some introspection. Who knows?
Exactly, exactly. So no, that's the reason why I asked that question. So as a trans woman, what do you get? I don't know how to ask this question, but what do you get tired of maybe people asking you, or what gets old, or what would you like to or what would you like to see from society? Yeah, I'm not really sure how I'm asking that question, but yeah, what do you get tired of?
Okay, well, I don't know how explicit I can be on this
Well,
call, but
we'll find a way to figure out how to say what you need to say.
okay. Um, but I guess I'm tired of immediately being sexualized.
Okay,
I love romance and I am sexually active. I don't have any problems with passionate people or passionate love or lovers, but the thing that I guess bothers me or can get old quick is how fast things become sexual, whether it's virtually,
okay,
messages coming in through the chat or in person.
okay.
I say I'm interacting with somebody in a club or a bar, and there's a good energy or a good
Mhm.
atmosphere leading up to this moment, and immediate like asking for sex or asking about my sex, asking about
Okay.
my genitalia and
Mhm.
things like that. It gets old quick because in my mind I want to play out, okay, maybe then we get each other's numbers or something
Right,
very chill, and that
right.
we can go on a date or we plan something out the next day. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
we go quickly from 1 to 10.
yeah,
What happened to 3 or 4? Or maybe 2 or 3. Yeah, why does it have to go straight from 1 to 10?
I
Yeah. So
get it.
what happened to the courting? Well, that's interesting too. Is that um, I think men in general probably struggle with all women courting as they should. But I think you make a really good point that with the trans community being fetishized or sexualized, you just automatically jump to 10.
Right.
Yeah, that's very true. I can see that.
Thank you. Yes, no, it escalates so fast, and I'm sometimes just like, dang, okay, pump the brakes. Like I was
Right,
feeling
right,
it too, but let's take this one step at a time.
right. Exactly. So, when we met, you had a chance to look at my novel, in my second novel, Love Cake. So tell me some of your thoughts on what you found in looking at and reading those novels.
Well, I really enjoyed the relationship between Bryan and Lance.
Okay.
I I thought that was definitely a parent and child relationship I had never seen before or read
Mhm.
about. It was affirming, very queer affirming, and gave Lance, I believe, a lot of room to explore, to find their femininity, try on, look for dresses even. I was
Right.
like, oh my God, imagining parents. I know there are parents out there that
There
are
are.
supportive and that walk with their kids hand in hand through every step of their transition or finding their identity as, who knows, a gay man, trans woman, non-binary person, lesbian, bi, whatever you want. But I was taken aback at that. And I liked how his partner, Nadia, yes,
Yes.
was encouraging through that and came to with the perspective of, well, my parents were supportive. So it kind of gave that perspective of, oh, this is a generational thing. Like we don't all have closed-minded parents, or the parent or the people like from the last generation aren't all not supportive people, if you know what I'm saying. There
Right.
are parents that raise their kids in the 70s, 80s, what have you, that raise them with like supportive ideas that the kids that are finding themselves now in the 2000s, 2010s are able to connect with. Like
Mhm.
it it was really affirming to see that healthy family dynamic, and to that I mean, Nadia's transness
Right.
was uh it was like it wasn't the defining thing about her. Like,
Okay, well, that's good to hear. Okay, that's nice to hear. Yeah.
she was a supportive like mother figure, honestly, like a maternal figure.
Mhm.
And it wasn't like, oh, spelled out, because you are trans, you get this X, Y, and Z, and you can then prescribe me, you know, how to be or how to heal. It was more so organic.
Mhm.
And I really appreciated that family, triangle.
No, I do agree with you. She authentically loves Lance. This is, it just so happens that she happens to be queer, trans, and he happens to be queer. If you were to strip all of the way, she still loves him.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think that's what really radiated through it, is that the family has nothing to do with gender, sexuality. Like, family is who you choose to be family, or it's who you're given, I
Mhm.
think that we are able to have chosen family as well as blood family or birth family. And yeah, like, I like how you put it. She still loves him at the end of the day.
Right, right, right. But at the same time, Bryan, he loses his mother,
Right.
which then shows kind of, okay, well, here's a side that I think probably, I don't know if I can say most, but here's a lot that a lot of, the LGBTQ plus community is seeing. So it's kind of like, okay, well, I know that story,
Yeah.
but this, I guess I was trying to put these two stories next to each other so that you can see that these two stories do exist in the same universe. It doesn't have to be some type of fantasy world that's at another time. They actually are happening all at the same time. That was what was important to me. So I appreciate you saying that. Did you see Nadia as a strong woman?
I did. I thought she was strong, but had a quiet confidence about her. And like, she kind of took the back seat in a lot of ways, but that's like giving trust to
Yes.
Bryan. Like, in a way, it does still take a strong like constitution or strong foundation of your own, character to let your husband, your boyfriend, your partner, whatever, to lead and to do their thing, to be strong
Mhm.
for his kids, or the bakery, or
Right,
the
right, right.
business.
Yes. So yeah, so that's good to hear you say that because she is quiet. She changes during the course of the novel. When you get to the end, uh, she makes some very significant changes where she takes more control over the business. But that was kind of done on purpose because of the mistakes that Bryan had made. But I think another thing that what was really important to me, and I don't know if you picked up on this, was that I wanted to show this community of cis and trans people who were supporting one another. I don't know if you picked up on that.
Oh no, definitely. I thought there was very little judgment, and even in times that there was hesitation on Bryan's end, he was met with the or excuse me, the trans people that affirmed him. No, it's okay to have these hesitations, or to not get it immediately.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it seemed like a good example of allyship, I will say,
Uh-huh.
um, because people were allowing others to show up as themselves, not saying that you need to come any more or less, but just be.
Correct, correct. So, so tell me, what are you currently working on now? What's got your interest now in your writing?
Well, I am writing a screenplay right now about a witch who is looking for her ancestors' help and is linked or paired with a particularly annoying spirit. Um, I am finessing it out, but it's obviously inspired a lot by me being here in Barcelona. I am learning that there was witch burnings not only in Salem, Massachusetts, but Barcelona. I've
Oh,
known
really?
that yes, which wouldn't that make sense? The people that came over to do the colonizing then came over to be conquistadors, then came over to lead an inquisition. But I learned that there was like a big history of that out here. And I've known for a while that San Juan had the first witch burnings in the Americas, technically in Puerto Rico, before Salem.
Okay.
Uh, so here I am writing about fantasy and magic, but also it's set in modern day.
Okay, so it is set in modern day. Okay,
Yeah,
versus
yeah.
okay.
Friendships, romance, things like that. Writing obviously a lot from my perspective, my personal perspective.
Right.
Um, Thank you for asking. That is something that I'm looking to film out here that I'm really looking forward to.
So just now, just have a small curiosity. When you write the screenplay, who do you pitch it to? Where does it go? Or do you just simply just put it on YouTube and just well, yeah, what happens next after it's edited and ready to go?
Well, from that point, I will present it to a producer that could be a friend of mine. I've presented to producers that have been my friends before they were producers. Before now, I have a bit wider of a network, which I'm super thankful for. So I would share it with the producer so that they could help me put together a team of people to film it
Mhm.
and edit it, post-production, everything. Um, and my goal in the past has been to upload it to YouTube, upload it to social media,
Okay.
and it's done. But now, as I'm relatively closer to, locations like Cannes in France, and there's these perspectives of film festivals like in London or throughout, really throughout the world, but I know there's quite a few in Europe. I'm thinking maybe I assemble this with a team that has altogether the intention to win at a film festival or to be played or shown at a film festival. So my next step will definitely be linking with the producer and seeing how we can turn it into a reality.
Okay. Okay. So Gris, can you tell everyone where can we find you at on social media? What's your website? Yeah, give us your handles.
Of course. Thank you so much. So you can find me at Gris Paloma Iris. That's Gris Paloma Iris. Instagram, TikTok, Threads, even, and my website is linked on all of those platforms, grispalomairis.com. And yes, I welcome everyone here. I want to say thank you so much, Douglas, for inviting me to your show and taking the time to chat with me. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Yes,
Seriously.
no, yes, thank you for being on the show. I think this has been a wonderful conversation. I think once again, just wanting to highlight individuals who are trying to make a difference, but also individuals who I guess on the surface may have, I guess what you could say, barriers in front of them, but are actually conquering those barriers pretty successfully. And I think you are a shining example of what's possible when you put yourself out there and, you know, you take a chance because you only got one life. And I personally would like to see, considering the fact I see myself as an old man, but I would like to see more young people not be scared of taking these types of risks. Because do it while you're young. Do it while you've got the energy. Uh, you know, do it while you don't have all the responsibilities, you know, especially if you're still single. But yeah, let's say you got husband and children, all these other types of things that really become a priority. Now is that time to take these risks. Now is that time to create the life that you want to live for yourself. So that's really my message that I guess I want to extend to you, but then also to anyone who's watching this. I want to extend that same message that there are young people like yourself out here who are, you know.
Thank Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you. I see that 100% and I feel that from your novel. I'm excited for the continuation of these series. And yeah, I appreciate you, Douglas.
All right. Well, thank you so much for saying that. So everyone, this is Douglas Bell. I want to say we have now completed another episode of Ringing a Bell, and you can find me at douglasbellbooks.com as well as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Douglas Bell Author. So thank you, everyone. Goodbye.